You know, it's not just here. And now French President Emmanuel Macron warns that the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics, that's in July, might be moved indoors if the terrorism threat is too high. France has, as you know, been hit by some terrible Islamist attacks. The danger has already forced the organisers to halve the planned crowd to 300,000 people, who at this stage will still gather around the river, the Seine, but that could now change because it's a dangerous world, as you know. Joining me from London is writer, broadcaster and columnist Esther Krakue. Esther, great to see you again. Britain, of course, has had its own terrible Islamist attacks, bombings in London of buses and trains, a concert in Manchester. Did the stabbing in Sydney of a Christian bishop during a live stream service make big news in Britain, or are you sort of habituated?
Well, in many respects, we were quite shocked that this happened in Australia, because this level of violence, particularly to do with knife crime, is more at home, should I say, unfortunately, here in the UK. You hear of horrific instances of people, particularly young people, even on public transport, on buses with giant machetes going around stabbing each other. There was a horrible video of someone literally being stabbed on an overground train. That the victim was lying on the ground. The person continued to stab him, and passengers had to pull him off and restrain him. So this is actually something that we're shocked happened in Sydney. But the rising threat of terrorism, particularly Islamist terrorism, is not just happening in the UK. It's happening all over Europe. The most recent Champions League games in Liverpool here in the UK and in Madrid in Spain, police were on high alert because of sort of warnings from ISIS that they were going to attack. It's really awful. Now, in the case of the Sydney stabbings, obviously in Bondi, which were horrific, there were people that jumped to conclusions and thought they were Islamists, which is obviously very wrong. But I think the wider threat is the fact that many of these Western countries don't know the people that are entering their countries. They don't know who's infiltrating their borders and the ideologies that they're bringing along with them. And the native population is suffering from it. And unfortunately, we're going to probably see a rise in this sort of violence from these aliens with evil ideologies. I mean, the French know it very well. Look at the Bataclan attacks in 2016, where they actually also targeted a sports venue during the Germany versus France friendly. So unfortunately, many Western countries have to be on high alert, and we have to be unafraid to have frank conversations about the kinds of people we're letting into our countries.
You make a good point. People tend to forget in the West that you import not just a person, but a culture. I think there's an arrogance here that people will automatically lovingly embrace the culture they're coming to rather than hang on the one they're coming from. That is not necessarily always the case. Over the weekend, you've had British jets helping Israel to shoot down all those missiles and drones fired at Israel by Iran. But meanwhile, your Labour leader, Keir Starmer, had pro-Palestinian activists actually camp outside his home, forcing his Jewish wife to stay somewhere else for her security. This is getting really ugly, Esther.
I mean, it's got to the point where it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the Prime Minister recently earmarked millions of pounds to boost security for members of Parliament because they're facing these rising threats. I mean, this particular group that camped outside of Keir Starmer's house are called Youth Demand. And the name denotes as stupid as they sound. It's just a bunch of young kids with nothing better to do than to demand things that they want, because clearly they think they know better than everyone else. And this is getting out of control. I mean, if we look at actually what's happening geopolitically, Israel has been attacked now in the space of less than a year twice. In the case of the recent Iranian attacks, you actually had other Muslim countries coming to the aid and defending Israel. So I really don't understand where these people are getting their geopolitical news from. And it's become so painful, I've actually even taken a step back from talking about it on Twitter, because I just don't understand the logic. These people have no understanding of history or basic warfare or of what it means to be an ally or anything like that. And this is the manifestation of it. You have young, ignorant people doing stuff like this and putting people's lives in danger.
Yeah, but Esther, I reckon a lot of that is explained by the fact that human beings, political events, tragedies exist not in their own reality, but just as metaphors or symbols to be pushed around in an ideological war in people's head. There's nothing real about it. They engage the world like it's some sort of shadow play. But you mentioned Twitter, Esther. I got to correct myself, or is it correct myself? I look up normally what you've been up to. I look up Esther K because I'm too lazy to type out Esther C. Krakue. And I swear it's not my own fault. You tap on when you get the result, Esther K, as I did this time, and something went wrong. your link has been hijacked, Esther. It doesn't exist, but
Yes.
it does.
I need to get it back. No, I think it's just it's a mistake of my last name. But it'll probably self-correct. But Twitter has been a cesspit these last few days. I mean, I'm actually shocked. I'm a bit offended as a British taxpayer that this is the quality of sort of graduates, school graduates that they're pumping out, that they have no understanding, not even of World War II or any basic history. I mean, the kinds of things we've been seeing is just what a waste of taxpayer money, honestly.